Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just gave you some slogans for some teams going into 2024, a little motto that they can put above the door as they walk out and slap it as they go. But now it's time for another Hot Take Thursday, and this one is just about who I think this year is going to belong to, and it is the freshmen across college football. I have been going through spring practice notes and getting all of the stuff across the country, trying to compile as much spring intel as I possibly can. And the way that these freshmen are being talked about across the country is just different than every other year. Obviously, there are a number of years where kids pop up. There are definitely some freshmen every single year that have remarkable years and come onto campus and are ready to go. But I've noticed there is a little bit different of a vocabulary, I suppose, as they're talking about these freshmen this year. It's not just like he's flashing in practice, or this guy has all the traits, or he's going to be really good down the road. It's this dude is an absolute alpha right now, or he looks just totally different than everyone else on the field. So I wanted to go into some of the freshmen that I think are going to be standing out for the big time contenders, and then we'll get into kind of the rest of the freshmen that will really define this season. So let's start with the clear cut contenders that we talked about in the previous segment, and let's start with Texas. And two guys that are absolutely standing out are Ryan Wingo and Colin Simmons. Ryan Wingo has gotten the most amount of praise as I have seen across college football. He is someone that is absolutely asserting himself into a starting role that a lot of people didn't think he was capable of getting. And then Colin Simmons has put on an insane amount of weight considering the amount of time he's been in Austin. He really looks the part. I think he's going to be insanely hard to keep off the field with how talented he is. And then he's just someone that you're just going to absolutely have to have. And then Ryan Wingo beating out three very high level receivers they brought in from the portal is just remarkable. And then Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith is just doing crazy stuff in spring camp. He is mossing Denzel Burke, which is something I didn't think he was capable of this early on in his career. To be honest, I did not have it on my postseason bingo card that he would find a starting spot in this wide receiver group, but he seems to have, and it's just ridiculous that he was able to. But the talent is undeniable, the ability is undeniable, and he might just be the wide receiver one at Ohio State this upcoming year. Emeka Egbuka tends to be my pick right now, but the way that Jeremiah Smith is playing in spring, if he builds on that, it's going to get very interesting very quickly. And then let's go down to Athens, Georgia, and talk about the Bulldogs. Ellis Robinson Jr. and KJ Bolden, two guys on the back end of that defense. Ellis a corner and KJ Bolden a safety. These are two guys that are just going to be really, really hard to keep off the field. The defensive back end is a little bit more solid than I had initially thought going into the offseason, but Ellis Robinson is already making jaw-dropping plays in practice. He made a crazy pick that I've seen a number of pictures of rolling around Dogs Twitter. And then KJ Bolden gets more and more talk as spring goes on. Apparently, he is the ultimate professional, comes in every day, works his butt off, and then goes home and studies. So he is someone that they absolutely love over there, and I think both those guys will play big parts in 2024. And then Bama, another team that we talked about earlier. Ryan Williams and Jalen Mbakwe are going to be huge for this team. Wide receiver room is a little bit interesting for Bama. Plenty of talent in that room, but not as much experience. Ryan Williams is the exact same, obviously, but the talent for him is just absolutely off the charts. He could definitely be a wide receiver one for them. No one has really stepped into that role. I think Jalen Hale is a remarkable guy in that room, but I think Ryan Williams, if it's not this year, it's definitely next year where he is going to be the alpha, the wide receiver one in that room and kind of take full control. And then Jalen Mbakwe is someone that this back end of that defense got a little bit gutted during the portal cycle, and he's someone that's got to come in and be ready to go. He is flashing in spring practice, so I think he's someone that could definitely jump off the page very early on in 2024. And then Oregon to round out the clear-cut contenders here. Gatlin Bear and Elijah Rushing are two guys that I'm watching very closely for kind of different reasons. One guy is just a position of need, Elijah Rushing at edge. He's a remarkable athlete, could definitely find his way on the field, even if they didn't need edge rushing, but they absolutely do up in Eugene, so I think he will find the field very early. And then when you talk about Gatlin Bear, it's just going to be impossible to keep this guy off the field because the speed is just insane. Whether it's returning punts or gadget plays, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to use him, but he's going to make plays for Oregon in the fall, and the plays are going to become more plentiful as you go on throughout the season, and he becomes more comfortable in that environment. But now that we're through with the big-time teams and the freshmen that can make impacts for them, let's go across the country and talk about the rest of the guys that could have big-time effects for their teams as we go into 2024. And I think Florida actually kind of leads this charge in a weird way. You have LJ McCray down there, a fantastic defensive lineman that almost definitely will play. I feel very confident in that, and I think he'll play early. His talent is undeniable, and that's a position that they're probably going to need a little bit of help in for the Gators. So I would be surprised if we didn't see a lot of LJ McCray in 2024. And then you talk about DJ Lagway, a guy that came in as a big-time quarterback and someone that Florida fans are putting, I don't want to say unreasonable pressure, but he is being dubbed as kind of the savior of the program, if that's the best way to put it, I suppose. I think he will likely not see the field in 2024 unless there is an injury to Graham Mertz, but if his time comes, I would not be surprised if he never looked back, because this dude's talent, this dude's ability is just mind-boggling at times. And then in Auburn, we've talked about him countless times, it feels like at this point. Cam Coleman is going to be wide receiver 1 at Auburn. I feel very, very good about that at this point. I think he is going to be an absolute difference maker, and if Auburn's going to be kind of the party crasher that they're capable of being, Cam Coleman's going to be a huge part of that. Then let's go to Colorado and Jordan Seaton, a huge pickup at the offensive lineman. He's probably going to play left tackle if I had to imagine, and that's a huge position, obviously. Protecting Shadur Sanders' blindside is the most important part for this Colorado success, and Jordan Seaton has that responsibility going into 2024. He has a big-time spotlight on him. He has the ability to deliver on the hype, but it's going to be tough, and he's going to go through some growing pains, I'm sure, but the capability is off the charts. So very excited to see what he can do. I think he's definitely more than capable of making big-time plays. And then Williams-Nwaneri, a player that is going to Missouri at the edge position. They lost some guys on that defensive line, mainly Darius Robinson to the NFL draft, and they're going to need younger guys to step in, and Williams-Nwaneri is an absolute game changer on the defensive side of the ball. I think he could be someone that not only changes the complexion of Missouri season, but the SEC overall, because Missouri is one of those teams that is sitting right under the Georgia and Texas and Bamas of the world that are gearing up to make a lot of noise. And then, in fact, I think Nwaneri could be the most impactful guy that I've said so far on this list, to be totally honest. And the reason I said so far on this list is we have Dylan Raiola at the very end here. He is the most impactful freshman in the country, bar none. There's really no contest for a number of reasons. It's obviously he is a quarterback. Obviously he is starting, but he's starting at the school that his dad went to. He had a recruiting battle between Georgia and Nebraska that got a lot of headlines. A lot of people were not too kind to him as he went through that process. He has infinite amount of eyes on him that are rooting on his downfall, as they say. They have plenty of eyes on him that are hoping he is the savior of the program, that Florida has given DJ Lagway the privilege of being the savior of the program. But Dylan Raiola has the weight of the world on his shoulders. There's really no debate about that, and I think he's someone that the ability is absolutely there. He is built like an NFL quarterback today. He is just remarkable physically, but he is a freshman in the Big Ten, and it's going to be very, very interesting. But if he puts it together, if he becomes the player that a lot of people think he's capable of being, and he becomes it in his freshman year, things get really interesting for the Cornhuskers, because the Big Ten, while not, totally wide open, Ohio State, Oregon, and Michigan are kind of still sitting up there at the top, but Nebraska is a team that is very, very sneaky, and if Dylan Raiola especially can put it together, then they become downright scary pretty quickly. So I'd be very interested to see what he can do. He is the most impactful freshman. He is the freshman that you will see the most headlines about and you will hear the most talk about because he's got a lot on his shoulders. There's no two ways about that. But very excited to see how he responds. Very excited to see how all these guys respond. I think this freshman class, not only was it talented when they came in, and people had a lot of expectations for this group, but they're proving to be as talented as we thought. They are proving every point that people have made for quite some time about this group, and even more so. All these guys are just showing out to the nth degree and doing just remarkable things the second they stepped on campus. So I think there's going to be just a remarkable group. We could have one or two All-Americans among this group because of how talented, and some of them are just stepping into positions where they got to be effective. So it'll be really interesting to see all that develop. I love this freshman class, and I think 2024 might just belong to them. So it'll be very interesting to see how that develops. But that will do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference for us. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all of the social channels for all of the updates, all of the content that we put out. We put out insane amounts of content every day across every single sport you could think of. So if you're not only a college football guy like myself, if you love basketball, Nelson has you. If you love wrestling, my guy Eric has you. If you love just sports overall, TJ or Jeremy have you. So tons of incredible people around here doing great work, and I think we have you covered with literally everything you could possibly need to know in the world of sports. So definitely check out all the pages for that. But thank you once again for listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.